And I built this little advanced builder, prompt builder, and just threw it on my local machine. You'll see it's there. And so
Did you
what I,
write this with Claude or something?
yeah, I just built it with Claude real quick. Like I said, it's like 15 minutes before we were jumping on, and it hit me like, wait a minute, why don't I just give examples? Because like I went from here, um, which is that if you go back a version, is this the one? I think it just did the last one. Yeah, I just did the last one. So I created and just put it on the local machine, but it's basically, the role, and then you have a task, and then you have format, and then tone, and then context. And what you can do on top of this is add other pieces to it, and these are just what I've seen people are using. Like you are a scholared historian. Okay, role is scholared historian. Your task is there's a task, and there it is in yellow. And then in 5 bullet points, that is the format, and then your tone is sense of urgency, so you can kind of look at a lot of this as what makes up a good prompt. And then the more context you add, the better your results are going to be. And
Right.
so this is real simple. This is what I would consider you don't want to do. And just by there, because if you kind of look at it, the strength of that is 25%. So it's all about looking at your prompt and going, how much data can I put in this? Now, when I start looking at what I'm constructing as far as my prompt, I start breaking each section down. So, one of the best tools I think anyone can use when it comes to prompting is either a GPT or a Claude project. Okay, and here's why. All of this, you want to be reusable, and you want to use it as fast as possible. And so if you start going down these trees, these conversational trees of you interacting with the LLM, and you're really putting something powerful together, having that already done before you even start is a really good thing. And so what I mean by that is, okay, roll. Let's take, for instance, roll. Now I went down the rabbit trail with this one when it came to roll, and I love what it produces. And it actually does change the output. Like it really does. I tested and I'm like, whoa, this output is even better. Because that's what you have to remember at its core, within all of this, what you put in determines what you get out. So if your input is very, very detailed, you've researched, which is another thing that I feel is not emphasized enough. It's research. What kind of prompt are you building? Okay. What things should you know about that prompt? The history or the information that's out there now, or how can you enhance it? What information do you need to have so that it's pre-structured going into the next section of your prompt? So for instance, role, I went down a rabbit trail with role, and I was like, most people do pretty much what we were talking about. When you look at this, you are a scholared historian with, 5 years experience, and you are at the head of your game. People will seek you out. You're an expert in doing this, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
So I'm like, what if you got deeper? What if you really created something that when you started off, you can function in this capacity, and it be much greater with more detail, more realistic, What if you put belief systems in? What if you put different architectures in? What if you created a personality rubric, which I did? So it's like you add all these things in there, and now what kind of persona can you come up with, and will it enhance the results?
So you're saying for the role, like you are a scholar historian, then you're adding like another paragraph of like detail about that role. Like you have this belief system and understand XYZ, and so you're just like giving it as much. Do you ever
Right.
find that doing that like makes it miss things further down in the prompt, or does it, is it like a way that you structure it that says like here, this is the entire role, here's your objective down here?
Yeah.
Does it get confusing
It's
ever?
it's kind of like the more I give it a role, the more I'm like going down the line. I think it's other pieces of the prompt that you get very detailed with as well.
Mhm.
And you can start trimming the fat. And kind of what I like about you that I saw is one of the things you like to do a lot is test prompts.
Mhm.
Most people just want to do a prompt to be done.
Mhm.
That's not how this is, because it's the other portion of the title of what we do. It's prompt what? Engineering. So engineering is testing. It's going through different stages to where you get to a certain point. It's not just bam, 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 kick this out, done. You know, depending on the task, what you want to do. So the road I went down as far as that was like, okay, my Claude projects, I have them for doing very specific things, and I can hit them and go in like these orders. So one thing I did was,
So
okay,
what
I
what knowledge base items are you putting in here? Are these from courses, or like how are you
yeah,
doing?
sometimes I put that in. Sometimes I create my own knowledge base from doing the research and then adding them in. Some of them don't have knowledge base information at all. It's just a prompt.
It's like a custom prompt in the settings.
Yeah, yeah, the custom prompt in the settings. So, for
When you're
instance,
when you're
uh,
creating the knowledge base items, you're just having a conversation with Claude and you're telling it to like create knowledge, like to create research for you to put into a knowledge
yeah,
base.
I do that.
Okay.
I also will have a conversation, and as Claude is giving me information in my research stage, I'm kind of determining, should this go to a knowledge base or should it not? Is it necessary or is it good?
Right.
Um, so it's one of those things. Sometimes I'll even go, hey, all this research that we've pulled in this window, how about creating, let's go ahead and reformat this and create knowledge based documents out of it. And then the cloud will go through, and that's what we're doing. And then it's like I get them and it titles it. And I'll even put that in there. Sometimes in the prompt, I'll say, hey, refer to this document in the knowledge base when it comes to this, look at this section when it comes to this.
Mhm.
So this is how open ended this can go. What I love about prompt engineering is it's your creation. It's kind of how you want to steer it, and over time, how you feel it should go. What are the subtle nuances that you want to add that's different than someone else? This is why I think it's so powerful. Like, if you're prompt engineering and you get with another person that's prompt engineering on a project and you guys are coming together, craziness happens. Because it's like you got two people thinking two different ways, and what you can come up with is like, whoa, because it's more than one brain in it. What I do like to do, one of my main principles is to remember you are the pilot. Okay. The AI is the ultimate co-pilot, but you give the commands and you do the steering. You take the suggestions that it gives because it's an expert in its area as well. So make sure you respect that. And merging those two ideals together, is how you start coming up with these really great results. It's the back and forth. It's you're really having a conversation, which is why I steer more towards like my weapon of choice is meta prompting, because it doesn't matter what large language model you're on. When you're meta prompting, you are guiding it and tuning it to actually create the prompt itself that it knows is best for its system.
So by
So,
meta prompting, you mean you're prompting Claude or ChatGPT to write you a prompt?
right, I'm having it do the prompting, but I'm entering in all the information and guiding it along and pulling steps out and adding steps and looking at results and say, no, this isn't the result we want. It's this. Okay, now that we're doing this, what does the prompt look like at this stage? And like we're just doing this back and forth. And the powerful thing about that is it doesn't matter what platform it's on.
Right.
GPT is going to prompt the best way for GPT. Claude is going to prompt the best way for Claude. DeepSeek is going to prompt the best way for DeepSeek. So you start doing it. Now you do have universals, and part of the universals is XML. I found over the past few weeks, I've researched it, gotten with some people that have really tested it, and across platform, XML won. And so now I'm moving towards, even with natural language, I'm moving towards doing a lot of XML in the prompting, because one of the foundational components of prompting is clarity. If you look at XML tags, how the clarity is on that, they tested XML, raw, markdown, I think it was JSON, and it was another one.
Can you
They
walk
used the
us
same
through?
prompts for all of them. Like they tested all of them. They used the same exact prompts across the board for like 8 different large language models. And the one that came out on top was XML. And then second, surprisingly, was raw.
Huh,
So
over JSON and stuff? That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah. A matter of fact,
Because that's what I use that
actually was near the
most,
bottom.
really.
Yeah, it was pretty
So
interesting.
can you screen share us some of your like, can you actually go through this on a project and show us what it's like to
Yeah.
create an XML prompt inside of Claude?
Yeah. So now these don't have XML because this is like the past week I've been looking at the XML. I do have an example for you though.
Okay.
Um, I'm going to show that has that, but this is kind of going back to when I created this one. So this is Mythos Smith Nova. And what basically it is advanced AI persona creation. So remember where I was talking about, you are so
Right.
for example, I created, and you see, I'm using them. I'm really starting to use them before I prompt,
Mhm.
and basically I'll show you how I'm using it now and what all it's doing. So the prompt is pretty crazy. Like it's pretty long. like
Did
like
you find this online somewhere and just drop it in here?
um
Where's this from?
I kind of put it together with Claude because
Okay.
I started studying personality rubrics and different things like that. And I was looking at people's persona prompts. And then I started going, what would be the ultimate persona? Like, how would it be built? How would it be structured? Me and Claude are going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until this thing appeared. And that's what I used. So instead of going, okay, like, give me an example of maybe one you would use. It doesn't have to be crazy at all. Matter of fact, the less the better, but it's kind of like, just something.
Yeah, like let's see. So one of the ones that I use
Or
is
if you have one, you could drop in the chat if you want to, like you could drop it in there, copy and paste it.
one that I'm working on right now that I'm curious is like it's a content writer, but it's an expert in political, like it understands politics. It's writing context about politics from an independent point of view. And so like that's kind of like the role that I'm trying to create.
Okay. Could you throw that in the chat real quick?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like just give an example because this is what it's gonna, I'll show you what it's gonna come out with. One of the things to remember, like when you're prompting the clarity, which is why I'm moving more towards XML, um, because it does really have the clarity in, and
Mhm.
I'm finding out just in playing around, you do get some really good outputs in it. So we'll look at chat. Okay. Right. So now we'll put it in. And you are a content writer that is an expert at understanding the independent political voice. So, okay. So what we do is, I don't even have to go into extended, but you can. And this is what I love about Claude. It's why it's the primary one I use. But you'll
Yeah.
notice 3.7, it has this right here, which is really powerful.
Yeah,
So
I pretty much only use Claude
yeah,
nowadays.
that's all I use, bro. Like I don't I don't even mess with GPT. So
Yeah.
you click that and then bam, you hit it and it's going to start creating. And basically within the rules and everything I put in there is to make this seem like a real person, with real belief systems and yep, for help with creating a deal too. Yep. Yep. Oh, let me do this. Uh, yes, for time's sake, instead of going through all the steps, it's going to ask a lot of questions if it wants to. So you can create a
Gotcha.
some prompt persona based on this information. Create a, yeah. So this is what I use like to start it off. So now that I have my system prompt persona, then it's like go from there. And whether I'm doing this in the console, which I use a lot, or you can do it in the regular um, GPT timeline, just the regular one.
Mhm.
Uh, this is how I started off. So it knows for now on, be that individual person. Okay. So this is it.
Sick. And so, all right, so now you have this. Now, what do you do with this? Do you put this all as the role, or how does that
Yeah.
work?
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll copy components and let's say duplicate, start a new one. So if I'm in here, I'll go um,
So is this mostly when you're like chatting with Claude to like get a specific result, or do you ever have like a way of taking this entire role and reformatting it for like an API call or like if building a
this is mostly creating the prompt.
okay.
I'm gonna do it for. Um,
So you like create the role extensively,
Right,
you add it into like the chat window, and then now that it knows the role, now it's creating
right,
the prompts if you're meta prompting it.
right.
Okay.
Now it is that. It is on that level starting instead of just you are a content writer that is an expert at understanding the independent political voice. Well, now it's all of this.
Yeah.
So you have seriously enhanced what you are as the brain of this whole entire thing. You're at this level. I mean, it's talking about historical context, media literacy, data interpolation, analytical approach, multi-perspective. And that's, I mean, this thing is like, and as it goes, and the reason I started doing this more also is because now the context windows are so much larger than they
Mhm.
used to be. So you can easily do this. Like so you think about it, what have we actually done as far as how much have we written in the window? Not much at all.
Mhm.
Like, and but yet now it's thinking on this level,
Right.
so this is one of the ways that I start off my prompting, whether it's in, like I say, the regular you know,
I
this
would
right
love to,
here.
I would love to see in this chat window you have right in here, see if you can have it create a prompt for you that says like you are a social media writer given the specific role above, like write a prompt. Is that something that you do?
That I would do it off of this one.
Yeah, because now it knows the role type. And so do you meta prompt in this window, or is all of the meta
Yeah,
prompts?
so then I'll start. The next thing I'll do is, what am I trying to do? Like that would be the next thing. What, now that it has this brain, so in other words, the way I see this is I have sat down and this person that's on the screen has walked into the room and it sat down across from me and we're about to create a project. We're about to work on a project. So that person is here now. So what do I want to do? And so whatever that may be, so it's not about creating a prompt at the beginning. It's about what do I want to do? And so what is the end product of what I want to do? And then do I need to go do a little bit of research on something? Do I need to bring that in? Do I need to jump on Chrome and go somewhere and look, or is everything going to be within here? What that end goal, how are we going to work to that end goal? So it's almost like this combination of the nuances of meta prompting and reverse engineering the end result at the same time.
Mhm.
Because we're here, this is the end result, and we're starting here. Now let's use both to kind of go backtrack one area and move forward in the other area and meet in the middle where now we have this.
So let's say we're trying to create like a social media content writer. What we could do is in this window, we could take examples of things that really meet like what we're aiming for. And we take
Right.
the role and we take the examples and those kind of merge and then create the prompt.
Right. So, like what you just said, we would put this is where few shot comes in. And I suggest everyone use few shot because they had a chart. If we jump on again, I can show that, but they showed a chart between few shot and zero shot. So you had zero, you had one shot, you had few shot. You found the sweet spot was around 3 examples. That was the real. So you don't want to put 10 in and get it too big unless it's a variance going towards another direction and you're explaining why. But around that 3 to 5 spot, kind of really that 3 was really good. So you grab those 3 examples Now, what I would do is in grabbing those 3 examples, I would then put the 3 examples in, which is few shot, and then I would say, analyze this. And according to what we're trying to do, what are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? That's the key. It's not just strength. It's not just look at this, but what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses that we can utilize or enhance to get to this end? And so it'll go in there and go, oh, the strengths are da 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 da. The weaknesses are da 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 da. Then I would work on the weaknesses.
So something, this might be a simple question, but something I'm trying to wrap my head around is when you say few shot, right? So we have chain prompts where it's like the output goes into the input. We have one shot, which is like one big prompt. When you say few shot, is this kind of like, in like N8N or Make where you say like system is this, user is this,
Well,
and then
system,
you're just like
and
going
you
back
have,
and forth all within one prompt, or what, like how do you build out a few shot prompt in like practice?
okay, so what I mean by few shot is the examples that we're giving it. So there are like, I think there are 3 prompt types according to the foundational information, which I barely looked at. But 3 shot, you have a user, you have a system, and then you have a resource. So the third one, of course, the system prompt, which is what we just entered in.
Mhm.
Okay, then we would start user prompts. Okay, then after that, you're looking at a resource prompt, which is you're taking the information that you got from a user prompt and you're now going to apply that in another prompt. So you took that resource, now it kind of turns into a user slash resource prompt. So if we were doing this for N8N, no, it would just be the established, like for N8N, I would put, I would more adapt it for N8N. What I would actually try is the level of this that we put in there first, just to see what it does, which is what I was talking about, the engineer part. I would be testing which ones give me the best results, or is it too much in there? Do I need to shrink it? Okay. Then I would do more towards, if let's say if I needed to shrink this, I would then go, okay, give me let's trim the fat off of this prompt and lower the amount that's in here. What's the most important information? Now I take that and then I throw it into N8N and test it. So it's kind of like, and then I have prompts that trim prompts. So instead of doing that every time, you put key information in there that goes, hey, anytime I get a prompt and I throw it in here, it's going to shrink it and it's going to be based on these principles. And
So
so,
let's make this like really practical. So there's like the role type. So that's like the system prompt. So it's like you
right,
are an independent political expert, blah, 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 rattles that
right,
off. That's the system prompt.
right.
Then the user prompt is like your objective is to blah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. This is what. And then the resource prompt is here are examples with strengths and weaknesses of what output you're going for. And that
Yeah,
would
you could actually do
that
it
would
that
be a
way.
few shot.
Yeah, you can actually do it that way. So it's like, what all do you want to get done before going into N8N would be the question. So, all right, your system prompt. Do you want to use this long system prompt? Will it work well? It probably will, to be honest. But if it doesn't, then okay, trim it, then put it in there. Now it's the system prompt, but you've done some trimming before you're in there. Now the user prompt. Okay, that goes back to the example I was talking about earlier. Okay, what does your user prompt need to have in it? So you have like the role, and then you have the task, and then you have the format, and then you have the sense of urgency, which is the tone. But what else? Do you want examples within that prompt? Do you want delimiters within that prompt? Do you want like these different ones that you want in there? Like how big is that prompt? What do you want all that's in that prompt?
Mhm.
So it kind of goes from there when it comes to if you're going to put this in for agents. So I tested this a little while back. I haven't tested it with N8N yet because I've just started to learn it, and I'm really starting to kick butt in N8N. Like I'm like, whoa. And I'm
It's
putting,
next level. I pretty much moved from
yeah,
make.com almost entirely to N8N. And
right.
plus you can run it easily on the cloud and basically pay, like get unlimited, workflows. And so it's like I was paying like $100 a month for Make, and I was like, and N8N's just like so much better.
It's so much better because in Make, it's per operation, where as far as N8N, the whole entire outline is the operation. So
Right. Like I'll
it's
run it
way
on
more
like
powerful.
10,000 rows of data, and it like
Right,
handles it perfectly, and it
right.
costs one workflow if you're paying.
Yeah. And it's just way more powerful, so
Yeah.
way more powerful. So then it's building out the prompt and putting all this in and determining. Now, what I'm going to do is instead of putting it right into N8N, I'm probably going to go through some iterations before it even goes in there
Yeah, that
to
makes sense.
creating the prompt that I want, and then kind of seeing what information that I'm getting from the large language model. Remember, it's going to be using the same large language model if you're doing it that way. So it's kind of, you can do a lot of the testing before you actually hit the N8N
Right.
module. So that's what I'm doing as far as that.
Can you show us what it looks like to do it inside of the console? Because I've personally never actually like built prompts inside the console before.
Yeah. So console is essentially, you can do it the same exact way that you do it here, like literally the same way. The cool thing about the console though is I'm finding the windows are longer.
Okay.
So like when you're over here in the regular area, it's like, after a while, it gives you that thing down at the bottom, like you have exceeded, or you're up to this point. Now, I did find a trick for that works super well. Okay, so you can prompt all the way down till it gets, and it's going, hey, you have exceeded the window. I literally copy everything in the entire window, which is what I love about Claude. I type in everything, like literally, I go like this, and I like go, it's grabbing this, this part right here, like all the way up. I'll start a new window and I'll go, you and I have been working on the project and we were utilizing all of this in another window. Here's all the foundational components in the background information of what we were doing. And then I'll ask it, do you understand what we were about to do next? Because sometimes it'll get cut off. I will throw all that in there. Man, it'll sit there and think and think and think. It'll go, yeah, I know exactly what we were doing. Was our next step. And we just like continue. So it's like so cool because you don't have to go, okay, this is what we were doing. No, it knows all of it. Like Claude is a killer, man. And when they made 3.7, it was just like, wow. I went back to all my prompts that I was using in 3.5 and updated them to 3.7.
Yeah, man, I tried ChatGPT like recently again. I was like, maybe it's gotten better, and it's like, Claude still the best.
Yeah, like
Oh,
Claude
oh
is,
one is oh one's pretty solid too, but I honestly just prefer Claude in general. It's more of like, I don't know. I just like their company more in general.
I'm
Uh,
definitely a Claude user, especially when it comes to code. Definitely Claude.
so
So in
you said you're not a programmer.
evaluate, you
You
can do
said you're not a
prompt.
programmer, you don't use code, but you're starting to just have it generate XML, Python, it's doing these things for you. And as a non-programmer, you're able to kind of like understand what's going on and
Yeah.
things with code
And the
as
more you do it, the more you're understanding what's going on. And so now it's to the point where I'm sitting up here like I can code in XML because like I see what it is. I see why it works. Once you start looking at the structure, you'll see why it works so well. And so
so let's create like an
I'll
XML.
give you an example of it in a little bit. But
Yeah.
it's like going in here, one of the things I like about this, you can put your system prompt in You got examples, mainly, and this is where your main context is, and you can put all this information in here, and then you can use variables, which is, well, let me go grab an XML prompt so you can see what I mean. So this right here, or is it this one? Yeah, this one right here. So this one will start here. The other is the next iteration. Okay, so with the XML, you have purpose. You are an expert prompt engineer capable of creating detailed and effective prompts for language. Now, here's what I love about Claude. Even though you have this here, like right here, what I'll do is I will grab this, I will throw it into Mythosmith, and I will like get that one, and now I'm doubling down on it. So now I come back in here and I'll put it up there. Sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. Just depends. But now you have it double, and it actually does make a difference in kind of the results. But
So
here's
what is the purpose of console? Like I still don't fully understand. It's like a
it's kind of like, it's not to that extent, but it's kind of just like it has some principles of Prometheus. So you can do things like, okay, when you get to the bottom, you can start creating variables like this. You can have variables. So like what I did is make this a template.
Mhm.
And this is my template to make other templates. Okay, so or make other prompts. So if I utilize this, but I change out a component of information, like what I don't have to do every time is, you have that, then analyze the user input carefully, paying attention to the purpose, required sections, and variables. What's the next instruction? Keep a detailed prompt that includes, create a detailed prompt that includes all specified sections and incorporates the provided variables, instruction, the next instruction. So,
So it almost like increases the number of different things you can tell it to do
right.
because it's
Because let's
structured in
say if we do
XML.
just the instruction part,
It's like that's a
okay,
lot of instructions.
right. So, but here's the thing, it reads, it like understands it beautifully. Why? Because, in other words, look at this. Um,
I think you spelled use wrong.
it doesn't matter. It'll pick it up. Mm, okay. Now, this is how a lot of people write out their prompts.
Mhm.
You see what I mean? Or
Right.
you may put little section titles or different things like that, but this is how it reads it. Now, of course, it could do what you want it to do, but this format right here, is much easier to read for
Right.
AI. It is literally going line by line, instruction by instruction. What you look
So
at when the one that we just showed is there's going to be a lot of interpreting. But the lesson is the more structured you get, the better your results.
So a solid strategy is probably like use a Claude project, create all these aspects of the prompt, and then just say like convert this prompt into an XML prompt,
Right.
and then
And it'll nail it.
add it to the system.
Right. Right. And it'll do it for you. So this is much better than, putting a big paragraphs of stuff, which is pretty much what 99% of people are going to do. They're just going to put paragraphs of stuff. And it's like, nah, break it down to explicit instructions.
Mhm.
Instructions. Bam, right to the point.
So it's objective instructions, input format, examples.
Yeah, this is a little advanced. Like I said, I've been studying it for a good bit, so this is a little advanced. But the premise is
But you're
out of
giving
this
it
long,
examples of XML prompts.
yeah, out of this long prompt, this is the only thing that changes. Once I put the use, that's the variable. That's why it's in red. So if I hit run when I did before, I hit run, it's not going to run it because I need to give it the variable. So
Mhm.
you see how this can work? Now you can put variables all within this prompt that you can change for each one, and this be your template.
Mhm.
So if we look at the next iteration of this, it turned green. Why? Because I put some directions in. So essentially, it's saying in layman's terms, this entire prompt is saying, I'm an expert prompt engineer capable of creating detailed and effective prompts for language models. And it has all this instruction on how to do it, and it even has examples. So the only thing you have to do is come to the user input section and put your own user input in. So this one, create an HTML and CSS only blog post based on the script instructions. And here are the instructions, based on the script and topic, create an engaging blog post, organize the script into a blog post, create a click worth title, whatever. I just threw this in there. It could be whatever you're putting in there. But once you put the variable in there and you click run, it's going to create the prompt.
Mhm. Yeah, so see, it
Now,
seems like this would be really good for like you're trying to create an API call for N8N, but
right.
you're running different data through it, like based on a spreadsheet every single time it runs. So you just create that variable in here, then you paste it into N8N, and you just switch the JSON variable inside of N8N with, whatever you're trying to run through the system.
So I'll say, I forgot that this part, output to a code block. So the cool thing about this is once you run something, it's here, but if you don't click add to the conversation, you can do this multiple times
Mhm.
and it doesn't affect anything. Like it doesn't change this part over here. So right now it's still on, oh, I don't like that output because I forgot to tell it to kick it out to a code block. So now all I got to do is run it again because I added kick to a code block. So what I love is instead of moving the string up, down, continuously going, whatever I write over here, if I don't like the output, it just showed me what the output was. I can go back over here to this side,
Mhm.
change what I want to, click run again. Okay, so now we click run again, it's going to erase that. You see what I'm saying? Now you can go back and forth instead of scrolling up and down.
Right.
So this time it still didn't, did it do it? No, I don't think it did it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. So evaluate, you can go into this part, you can do the show prompt, not, not show prompt, show ideal inputs, whatever. And now you get to see like what it changed. So if you have different variances, it can show what it changed, what it did to it. I've also started creating debuggers. So you see where your mind goes with it. And that's why I'm saying, like, you have to think within you creating a within this project. Like my mind is working now is, okay, I need to start writing down steps to a project, the research portion, the system prompt, create your system prompt portion, go in there, create debuggers for your prompt, do all these different things so that you're running down this list. But then guess what? If you create that, my mind, next step is going, as I create all this to come up with this beautiful end product, I can now automate this. So now I'll go create a prompt that does all of this. And you can throw it in a project. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, the more you do this, the more you're trying to figure out what can you establish and set up before the project that's going to work on all projects.
Right.
And you
You're
kind of go
basically
from
building
there.
a comprehensive set of prompt engineering systems that allow you
Right,
to create prompts more effectively faster. Something
right.
that we talked before, like hitting record about like the first principles of prompting, and you talked about like understanding large language models helps you prompt better. Something that I'm noticing in what you're saying, and I'm curious how this lands. It's almost like the ability to do reasoning and logic is like the core skill here, because it's like it's not just like let me prompt, it's like you're logicking your way through this process. And I believe like that's not like a skill that everyone has. So it's almost like to learn prompt engineering, it's like you can have AI write you a prompt, but you're trying to think through the logic of why did that prompt go from here to here, and then you're just building it, reverse engineering everything.
That is exactly it. Which is really good news. And why? Because you guys out there that are listening to this, it is going to enable you to work on prompt engineering on the level as someone who got formally trained, because it's not really going to matter, and it doesn't matter. What it comes down to, I think you and I had a talk before when we were discussing, like, what is the main points in all of this. I was on another call you and I had, and it's like, within AI and everything we're doing, you have Cursor, then you'll have Bolt, then you'll have this. I'm like, all these tools change per week, per month. It's going to continue to do that. The most important thing that you can have as an individual is your ability to logically think through things, to essentially, no matter what situation comes up, to push out from it. And I call it the 30,000-foot view, and not be in it, but push out of it and go, what is really going on here?
Yeah.
Your own logic tree, your own thinking. They say think outside the box. No, you have to go a step further. You have to realize there is no box. So your thinking can go wherever it needs to go, how it needs to go. There is no right and wrong. It's this truly is prompt engineering, truly is. Let's say you're trying to get to 10. 1 plus 9 is what? 10. 8 plus 2 is what? 10. 11 minus 1, what is 10? Like you can, there's all these different ways to get to 10. So what works best for you? And what can you create? And I would suggest you start thinking of, even when I started in the world of AI, it wasn't about this particular one thing. It's all about infrastructures and systems. So for me, I own a hyper automation company. And when we go in, we evaluate companies. We don't just look at, oh, what can I automate? No, we look at the psychology of the individuals. We look at what are they trying to accomplish. We look at what are the bottlenecks. We look at their competition. We look at, like, there's so many factors we look at to go, and why do we do that? Well, you have a goal, but is it necessarily the right goal? You're basing your goals off of information you have. So the more information that it's possible to have, you may find out that you may want to alter things a certain way. And we found this out working with companies, because we'll come in and they want to do this. And when we start evaluating their systems and evaluating what they're doing, we find out, wait a minute, you have this entire segment of data over here. Did you know if you connect this data with this data, you can do this? And they're like, what? And then you start going in there and doing that. So what I'm finding out more and more as I go through this space is that through your automations, through everything, the most important information is the data. It's all about data manipulation. How can you manipulate the data? Not in a bad way. What I mean is, like, how can you take this data, merge it with this data to come up with something you didn't even think of that will be beneficial for this data over here and enhances that process to do this? So even in N8N, it's about the data. It's about the inputs. What are you putting in? The better you can put in, the better you're going to get out. That is like a foundational premises of all this. So you don't have to think like this other person. You can think in a whole entire different way, and it's perfectly fine, because you can still get to the end result that someone else is trying to get to. So my suggestion is, within doing this, the more knowledge you have, the better you're going to prompt. So if you understand large language models, which I started studying, it's like I'm seeing ways, I'm going, oh, that's why. Okay. Then I'm studying machine learning and I'm going, oh, that's why. And it's like, the more you're looking at it, don't look at all this as a singularity. Look at it as, if I am going to be prompting, what systems can I create to help me prompt better? And then put them in a sequence. And so, like what we just talked about earlier, all right, I'm going to start prompting. So what is one of the base things that I do? It's the initial system prompt. How can I improve the initial system prompt? Well, that's how I started. So to me, that's where I came up with Smith. How can I enhance the system prompt? Okay, from there, what is the next step? And that's how you go down through, like, what are all these steps? Do I have template prompts that can make other prompts? So now if I'm using XML, which another thing that I found to do is study the docs of the language model you're using. You don't even have to go through it so much as you, but copy large sections of it, throw it in the Claude or GPT and go, explain this to me at an 8th grade level. Like you don't have to understand this at this such high level. So this is what I found, and which was one of the things I'm like, whoa. So remember, I look and I see that test, and I'm like, what? So then I go to research, does XML really make a difference? And what does I pull up Anthropic papers, and what is it? Use XML tags to structure your prompts. Okay, now I'm seeing. So see, the more information you start adding, and it's telling you why it works well, because it brings about clarity in your prompting. So you can click on this GitHub prompting tutorial, Google Sheets prompted to. So now it's sitting up here telling you this information. What about let Claude think? Remember how I was telling you it's better that you steer it and guide it, but let it think to come up with the scenarios that you need to. Okay, that's chain of thought prompting. Claude loves that. So if you find out whatever language model you're using, what are the core methodologies behind it that it likes, and you start utilizing it, you'll get better. Same thing over here. I went over to um, Open AI, and it even talks about write clear instructions. So why does XML work across all these platforms? Because it makes it incredibly clear on your instructions on what you do, and it doesn't even matter what model it is. So now you can start going through the papers on, okay, this is GPT, like all of the GPTs, what is it built on? And so this is where I'm talking about gaining that knowledge and gaining more understanding is going to help you. Then, of course, if you're out here doing N8N for other people and you're creating automations for other people, do it for yourself. You have tools right here that can help you blow through projects much faster. So what if you start creating more tools? Okay, so instead of sitting up here and trying to build this out for every one of them, why don't you build an infrastructure that does it for you? And you just go put the simple line in that we did at first, which is this. You see what I'm saying? And now you get this. So you just built in a little system step that's gotten you much faster.
Mhm.
And then you start doing it more, just like your I saw the swap that you put in there, the swap file, of all of those different prompts you have. So what if you put those inside of Claude projects? I even do Claude projects depending on what it is. I structure them a certain way. Like let's say one of them, I've created brand voices where you just enter a little piece of information and it creates the whole brand voice for you, like of that company. You could take pieces of content, throw it in there, and it'll go, okay, we're going to sound just like the company from now on. Here's the prompt where you could do it. And
Mhm.
so now every time you write content for that company, you got your brand voice prompt. So you started thinking of how fast can I get through things? What can I do to help me out? I have one for voice AI prompts. Okay, so I do a lot of that because we have our own voice AI system. Um, so it's like, okay, if I'm creating prompts for it, I start off in putting everything I possibly can in this prompt. Now it's different with voice prompts because you want to cut down on latency. So you need low token usage for voice. So I'll put this whole entire prompt in there, like everything in it. Then I'll run it through this optimizer. I had a prompt the other day where it had 5,000 something tokens. I threw it through this and it came out with like 589. Like it dropped it that much, but guess what? It was still as efficient.
Mhm.
So that's what you want to do. And that's why I was saying, build these in for the prompts that you're using. I even have them where I have a prompt architect that shows you how to create prompts, and it's crazy. Like this thing is crazy. Then
But
you start,
what about this strategic decision making axis IQ one?
oh, yeah, that's crazy.
That's how I personally use Claude a lot. Is I'll give it like books and stuff, and I'll say like help
Oh
me
yeah.
help me do business strategy so that I can better, make decisions about what the next move is in my business.
So I literally have to create for every prompt I create documentation. Like I have it create documentation so I can remember what the heck it is and what it does. Because, like I say, I go down rabbit holes when it comes to this. And the more you do that, the better. And what I mean by this is like, how are you creating this on a whole different level? Like, what are you doing? Like sentiment analysis. Okay, so we were working for a company doing that, and I realized sentiment analysis for everyone that what people are creating is pretty basic. How can I get more in depth with this? So I'm pulling in psychology, I'm pulling in how the mind thinks, I'm pulling in all this stuff. Next thing you know, me and Claude created to where it's quantum and it's actual 4D. So it's gone way past regular. Like this thing is talking about, 24% of the medulla oblongata. Like it's sitting up here doing all this analysis for this company. And that's the one I told you about. We took it to a whole other level to where they implemented this in literally the first call they made because we did it to structurally look at all of their call data, the transcripts, break it into pieces, grab data from other places, and do analysis on this at a much higher level to where they, once they got it and we built that system for them, they were like, oh my gosh. Well, their first call they tried it out on, the AI told them they should get a $230,000 deal that they should close on it. And they're like, what? And I'm like, well, based on the data, that's what it said. So I was like, what's it going to hurt? Just follow the data that it gave you and go through the call like it's saying the steps go through the call. They did it and they closed the deal for $238,000 first call. It's like, but what went into the prompting was crazy.
Mhm.
But this shows you what you can do when you can grab data and do different things. This
So
particular one is crazy. Like this one, I put over 155 business frameworks in here. And this thing is going to sit there and show you, like, give me a business scenario that you would need help with. Like, you're a new company.
how about the one I'm currently facing? I'm I
I type slow,
basically
so I throw that in.
I'm spread thin. I'm getting these contracts. I'm trying to figure out if I should hire someone. But basically like just work overwhelmed with too many proposals and sales calls and clients and content and all this stuff. And it's like, what do I prioritize? Based on, should I do more cold emails? Should I do more YouTube content? Should I hire someone to be a closer? Like all these thoughts are going through my mind.
Okay, write something for me in the chat,
All right. All right.
and we're gonna see what this thing does. I let two people
Also,
use it, and they were like, it totally helped them, like solve their issue. They were like, this is crazy. And if you guys listening, um, Michelle, Dave, John, if you guys have any questions, feel free to jump in.
Hey, Brian, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, man. Yeah, I think this is all really great. I'm kind of with Ethan on this, where it is overwhelming. I mean, Ethan, you were talking more about like clients and contracts and stuff, but I think it overlaps with um, how complicated these flows can get and trying to organize it in a way that makes sense when you're doing it at scale. I'm a programmer myself, so I'm using more of cursor.sh with Claude 3.7 and
Mhm.
keeping track of everything, context, changes, across everything, because we're trying to do more now that we have AI. We have so much more that we're capable of doing, and it's easy to lose track of it with our minds, you know. So I don't know if you had anything. I just wanted to discuss that, in particular, the overwhelm nature of how intense things are getting, meta prompting and coding and all this.
Yeah. I do have something for that. What I started doing was everything that I'm creating, my prompts, I'm categorizing them and for a specific end result. So we'll take this and okay, so that's what Ethan put in there. We'll go through that in a second. One thing that I did is I created a Claude project to teach me prompt engineering more at a higher level. So, like he said, I'm throwing different books in there. I think on this one, I put, let me see. Yeah.
Something I want to add, in here to kind of like into this conversation is, well, how I'm perceiving things right now is like business is always like complicated. There's like always parts. And so like you can like these Claude projects can make things more complex, but they can also simplify things. And so it's like, okay, now I have 10 Claude projects. How do I figure out what is most important? Like one of the things I was going to say earlier, which I think ties in here, is like AI is getting better at reasoning, right? Like O1, all this stuff, it can start reasoning through multiple different steps at once. But like, even as it gets better and better and better at reasoning, like it doesn't take human reasoning out of it, right? And so what I'm thinking through is like, okay, maybe it can reason through 20 different steps, but it's just augmenting my own reasoning. And now I can have like 5 steps of my own reasoning, but when I put it into AI, it's 20, like it's doing 20 individual steps. And it's like these kind of like branches, what you were talking about, like the logic branches. And so, I mean, as what I've been thinking about is like, what happens when AI like gets 10 times better than it currently is, 100 times better, right? What then? What I've been thinking about is like, it's going to get better and better at doing more and more complex things, but you still need to understand what you want it to do. And like, no matter how complex it gets, it's almost like, I almost like see it as like training a muscle, like this reasoning muscle of like figuring out, why should I do this? What should I do? Like, why am I making the decisions that I'm making? Like, I feel like no matter how good AI gets, like this is like a muscle that the better I get at it, the better I'm going to be able to wield AI,
That's precisely
towards
it.
my goals.
Yeah, because no matter how good it gets, like I said earlier, you're still the pilot.
Yep.
So you got to drive this thing, you know. So yeah, I put this book in there, Prompt Engineering for Generative AI. And the next book I'm putting in there is Prompt Engineering for LLM. It's like I said, the more you understand, the better you're going to get. And as far as the systems, like what you guys are doing in Cursor and different things, what I want you to remember is there's a lot going on, but you can also use AI to organize. So it can help you like organize things like okay, like Ethan was saying, you got all these GPTs. You know what you can do? You can go into a brand new command line and go, I have 10 GPTs. This is what they do. This is what kind of project I'm doing. Which GPT should I use and why? And it can start giving you, so now you can start doing like whenever I do content for like blog or whatever, these are the GPTs I use and this is the order. When I use this, these are the ones and this is the order. When I use this, these are the ones and this is in order. You can start organizing yourself, which is what I've started doing. And it's like a real plus to start organizing yourself and going, now you know what to do on what project. Even when it comes to like this one, I took a few different other papers as well that I found across the internet and threw it in here. And I'm like, okay, teaching myself and going through this, Well, one of the big important things are the type of prompts. So you have expansion prompts, and this is how I'm categorizing my prompts now. Expansion prompts, small input, large output. So what is it doing? It's something that you're putting something small in and you're getting something bigger out. Content generation, explanations, ideation, story writing. You come down to the next one, compression prompts. So what is that? Taking something big and making it to small. Conversion. You have format A, you want to format it to B. Seeker prompts, queries, rivulet. And so it has the different examples of them, and that's what I've started to do. So now that it's like my prompts are sectioned off like this, it's much better for me to be able to do that um, and work it from there. Then I gave myself like foundational principles here, like zero shot, so I can understand, because a lot of times out here on these videos they're saying things that I don't know what they are because I didn't do the foundational thing, but I end up going, oh, okay, this is what you're talking about. I'm already doing that. Okay, now I understand. And kind of going from there. So this is like level one. I've been looking at things like understanding the LLM black box.
Can you share this? Can you
Um,
share this in the chat by any chance? Is that possible?
I got it from like a few different things. This Claude project isn't, but I got a good bit of it from this book. And Ethan, I used your process of doing this. Like I got the book and then got the EPUB file. Like created all, then I cut all the fat out of it, and then I trimmed it and threw it in the Claude. So yeah, this book it
Yeah,
breaks a
could
lot
you,
of that
I
down.
think, could you just copy like what it spit out? I think is what the ask was there, and then just like drop it in the Zoom
Yeah,
chat.
I just wanted to save that because I agree with you. The fundamentals are
The
everything that
for
you were
that.
reading out off of there. I really appreciated that. I like that a lot. The chain of
Oh,
thought, all of that, just copying that. I don't know if you could just copy it
oh
all
yeah,
or
yeah. And look, this is chapter one. I mean, this is
oh
module.
wow, okay.
So I have like all these modules, but I basically put all of that in here plus a few other documents and asked it to, hey, let's go through the lessons.
Oh, I'm definitely doing this. I'm definitely
Yeah,
dropping
you
this
see what I'm
book when
saying?
I'm
So
talking.
this is how I'm teaching, because I'm noticing like when I go out, the prompt engineering that I'm doing is above the prompt engineering that a lot of people are showing.
Yeah.
So I had to start, like I had to understand what am I doing more. And like even to come in here and show you guys this, I was like, how do I explain this? Like I get it out my head and explain it. So I start looking at stuff like this. And this is like my third one that I built. I built like some other ones, and this is the third one. It's like different from the other ones. So it's all this is helping me be able to show you guys. Like if we were going to do a course on this, I would start with some principles like this and go further way into it. Like I could build a whole course out of literally what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis with real scenarios and do this. Like, so what I'm giving you guys today is kind of like, just a synopsis. It like goes way deeper.
Well,
Something
Brayden, have you?
I
Sorry.
Go ahead.
go for it.
I was just wondering if you've had any experience with the new model context protocol that has come out where we're connecting these like it's like function calling, but within prompting. So you can say like if I have a database or if I have a
Yeah.
let's say
Yeah, I do that a lot in my voice prompts
like
where I'm
MCP.
calling different tools out to actually do it's saying it's too long to throw in the chat.
Oh, okay. Do like a paste bin. You could go to like pastebin.com and just like paste. I don't know if you can share it. I guess
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't share it.
What is it called?
Pastebin.com.
Paste in
Paste bin, bin like a trash bin.
.com.
.com. Yeah.
And just paste it there.
Paste it in and scroll down and yeah. And you just yeah, prompt, whatever the title you want it to be. You just create the paste and make it expire or not, whatever. The paste exposure, you can make it public or only people who have the link.
Yeah, public. Okay, it has there. And then anything else I need to do?
No, that's perfect.
Oh, this is pretty cool. I never heard of paste bin.
Yeah, there's a lot of those out on the web.
I take this link right here.
Yeah, you throw it into chat.
Okay. You guys go.
Thank you.
Yep. And so there's so much to teach on this stuff. And we're talking about real practical things that that I'm doing for like clients, and putting those things together, and even going more over the little thing I made right before class, that the enhanced prompt structure visualization, so you can kind of see how this stuff is built out. Okay, so Axis IQ. So we took what you had in there, and we go, okay, now that we have that, boom. And now it's going to start going through the frameworks. And I even put in there code so it could even kick out. Like, what it's basically supposed to do is grab which frameworks are best to use, even how you can cross-reference them. And then it even has mermaid diagrams, like that could come up if needed for that situation. And then it'll actually walk you through every step. Like, it'll suggest, do all this. And then it's like, do you need help implementing all these systems? And then it'll sit there and walk you through. It'll tell you what system it suggested and why it suggested it. So
are you open to sharing this system prompt by chance?
Yeah, I can share it.
Sick.
So boom, here you go.
Optimize, raise prices, hire admin, hire fulfillment specialist.
So it created a 30-day sprint, 60-day sprint, and a 90-day.
Yeah, I've got to level this up. I've been using the same book from the guy that made like a theory of constraints, but I think like having other strategies
That's a good
and
one.
stuff.
Did I add it in this one? One of these I added theory of constraints went into one where I'm creating a voice AI agent that calls the potential client and has a really exceptional conversation, gathering all their data about them, their business, their goals and everything. And like, it puts it all together. Then I have all that data from the transcript. It runs through an analyzer. I'm using N8N, so it runs through an analyzer. The LLM breaks everything out into categories, and all that stuff is there. Even suggestions on what to do, what questions to ask on the call, schedules the call for them. So then, like, it does all that. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like getting that 30,000-foot view and going, what all can I do with this? And so I use theory of constraints in that. That's one of the pieces that I used in it.
Yeah, super powerful model.
So this gives you like all this information, and you can read through it. And if you kind of go sit here and you go, okay, This is a lot. Can you help me?
I found the prompt engineering for LLMs book PDF file. I posted it in chat.
Sick.
So now it's going to look at all the steps it told you to do, and then you would just start following it. Like it's going to tell you step for step what to do. And then you can get inside of course, each step and go, okay, so we need to implement this, and you're saying this, how do I do it? And it will literally, dude, it's going to sit there and show you how to do all this. So I was like, man, I should sell this. Like I build stuff like this all the time, which is why I've started to learn full stack. Because I'm like, I got all these ideas and these applications that I'm making, like they're Claude projects, but they could be real applications.
Yeah, like the prompt, the web app that I mean, it was just HTML and CSS. I don't know if you had a backend
Yeah,
for
yeah,
it,
it was
but
just
that
HTML and
advanced
CSS.
prompt.
Dude, I built that in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I believe it.
And it's like, I'm like, there's so much more I could put in it. I just like built it for this presentation, and that had me thinking, man, I need to build one of these, just like there's so much, because there are a lot of people that are starting out, and to have things color coded, and you click on them and you add it and it shows you what is what, like for even from beginner to mid-level, that's like a big deal.
Mhm.
So now look at it.
One thing that I've noticed even with coding with AI is I'm returning to basics of coding myself first. And instead of letting AI take over and do everything for me, I'm
Right.
noticing a trend of people that are actually losing their critical thinking skills as well as programming skills because they're outsourcing all of their thought process to
Mhm.
AI, and then they're like lost on, and then the project becomes huge, and then they don't even know where to begin. If you don't know the architecture yourself, then you're in trouble.
Right, right. There's something new out where they're kind of talking about this. And it's kind of the new way of coding. And I saw it and I was like, oh, this is kind of
Don't tell
interesting.
me it's vibe. Is it vibe coding?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah,
God. They say the vibe coders are, I mean, that's the thing. It's like you just don't care and you keep running until you break things. But when you're working on a client project, like right now, I have a few coding project for clients. You can't really vibe code. You have to be aware of everything unless you're outsourcing and you have a team with you. But if you're a solo developer and you just strictly vibe code on a client project, you're going to have a bad time. That's just my experience of running an agency for 2 years. Coding agency is just every time that I give up my agency to an LLM, it bites me.
right, right. Which goes back to what me and Ethan were talking about. It's like, my thing is, if you want more, you must become more. That's
What do you mean? What do you mean by
that's
that?
if you want more, you must become more. Not the AI, not
Mhm.
everything else in your life. If you as a person want more, you have to become more. So that means the first principle of getting better at anything you do is to get better yourself. That's the foundation
100%.
principle that I live by.
Mhm.
It's with all of this. It's like the tools are going to change, the tools are going to get better. But me as a person, if I want to be better, I have to improve me. which is why I just don't leave it up to the LLM to do everything. What am I doing? Every day I'm practicing my reasoning skills. I'm practicing my logic skills. I'm looking at the AI and I'm going, how can I get better in using it? I'm looking at the new tools and I'm going, what concepts can I create that's going to speed up workflows, get better answers, and create better results? What is that? What do I need to get a better understanding of? Which is why I pulled that book out and then even showed you, okay, that was that one. The next book I'm going to get is Prompt Engineering for LLMs. I already tell you that's the next one I'm going to get. And so it's like, study those things, get better with it, learn natural language. I don't know if you guys were on earlier when me, Ethan, and I were talking, but it's like, learn machine learning, like learn it better. The more you understand a lot of this, the more you're going to be able to do. So you're wanting more, which is I'm constantly wanting to improve with my prompts. Okay, then I'm going to have to become more. It's kind of like you look at it as a video game. You're on level 1, you're not beating the boss on level 14. It's like you got to get better. You got to build your character up. Okay. So you got to give it more skills. You got to give it more experience. You got to, like, what they consider fail, I consider learn. I don't think there's failing. I think you just learn how to not do it. So there's a better way to do it. So, your character gets wiped out. Okay, you learned, I need to jump a little bit earlier on this instead of that. And you just keep building and you keep building. Then when you get to level 14, you can beat the guy on level 14. You may even have to go up against him a few times, but you're getting better. Your character is getting better. You are building up a better character. So within all of this, consider yourself the character. You want to do better prompts? Learn how to prompt better? You got to improve yourself. And then when you do that, you can utilize the tools. You're not a samurai because we give you a samurai sword. You see what I'm saying? Like, I give you a samurai sword. Oh, I'm a samurai now. No, you're not. You haven't built the character. You haven't done anything. You just have what? The tool. So I can give a samurai a stick and he's going to kick your butt. Even though you have this amazing tool, doesn't matter. You don't have the skill with it. You haven't built up that work engine that it takes to get there. So now you give the samurai, instead of a stick, you give him a sword. What's he going to do? Wipe everybody out. So my thing is, be the samurai, become the samurai, keep getting better so that when these tools come out, you have a better understanding than a lot of people do. And you'll be able to take advantage of it. Like, I am not a coder. I could do a little bit of stuff, but it's like, I pulled out Lovable, and because of what I know conceptual wise, like I'm rolling through Lovable and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at what I'm creating, because I understand principles. It's just like everyone's going, oh, when you get no code, you don't have to worry about anything anymore. Okay, yeah, so you jump in the program and you don't even know what to tell it to build, and you have no idea what Next.js is. Okay, you have no idea what it is. You have no idea what to do with it, and you didn't even know to bring it up. You're looking at something you see out there and you're going, ooh, make that, and you don't even know. Or would it be better to have an understanding of these different applications that you can use and you merge them together to do something? That guy's going to win. So,
Yeah, I think
that's where it kind of gets into, the more you develop yourself, the better you're going to be.
yeah, I think there's something here into, like, rather than trying to spend 1,000 hours learning how to code in Next.js, you're spending 1 hour understanding what it is and why it's used, and you're kind of getting like just the core principles of every single one of these different skills, and then you can merge them all together using, you know, whatever prompts you're creating or whatever systems you're creating, but you don't have to spend 1,000 hours in each of the individual skills.
Right. And my thing is use the AI to research, use the AI to get yourself better. You know, even understanding from a prompt engineer, and I know this is getting a little advanced, but okay, you find out the more you can manipulate the data, the better, which is why RAG is so important. Okay, so what's comparative to RAG? Prompt tuning or fine tuning. But how much of that can you really do on a public model? You can't do much of that. But what can you do? You can use RAG. So you can fine tune your own data within a large language model by using RAG. So how much more powerful is that? Well, what I'm doing now is looking at all of this and going, how can I get better at prompt engineering? What if I take a whole bunch of prompt engineering data? What if I take my prompts? What if I take all that and I'm throwing it into RAG? And now I'm using that as a reference to get even better. Well, I'm controlling what's in there. I'm controlling the data. So this is what I'm talking about, thinking, hey, there's no box. What could I possibly do with all this? And let your creativity go crazy and then figure out how to accomplish what's going to be in your creativity. Like that's essentially where it is.
I'm even thinking about comparing RAG and fine tuning to the new MCP architecture that's coming out, where you're just able to connect any application, anything to the context that you're in. Like Claude, if you download Claude and you run an MCP server, you're able to connect your GitHub repository or, you know, your database. You know, I've said this earlier, and you're essentially able to have some type of RAG system in place where it can read your database, write to it, analyze it without having to go through the hassle, because fine tuning is expensive and RAG is very finicky. That's what I've noticed. And then MCP just comes in and it's like this middle layer of being able to connect to anything and bring it into context. Very cool stuff, especially with the what is it called? The deep search, not deep search, but thinking, like just the thinking protocol that's come out in all the LLMs, where it can think deeply about things and have different steps of thinking. Now you can have different steps of actions, where then it just turns into like this agent style communication, but all within your, you know, within Claude.
Yeah, that's what I liked about what they came out with along with 3.7 was the ability to, you know, have Claude coding. Like that was like, whoa.
I haven't tried that. How do you like that? Because I've heard it's very expensive, and I am doing just fine with Cursor with, you know, because it's like $20 a month and you get unlimited. They've definitely subsidized it because they're making a lot of money and bringing people on to use their platform. And I'm sure eventually they're gonna, you know, start bringing in like a credit system. But I've heard that the Claude coding is very expensive, but really good. But still, in comparison to Cursor, I I don't see the trade-off yet.
Well, it's going to depend on how much you use it and what you're using it for. And there'll be another one next week. Matter of fact, I saw another one where Roz, I forgot his full name. He's on YouTube. His company created one to where it does all the setup for you just by clicking buttons. Like you literally go in there and you go, I want to use Superbase. I want to use Stripe. I want to use, and like you're just clicking on the options and then you just press the button and it goes, give me your APIs. And you put your APIs in and it sets up everything just with a click.
Yeah, I'm still skeptical about these systems like Lovable and all of the, you know, the what you see is what you get builders, just because I understand how in depth these like projects can get. And sure, it can generate boilerplate code for you, but once you have to start creating these like large changes or even small changes, you have to understand the code base because we're still not there with the context limitations. Even 3.7 is still has a 200K context limit, which when you have a large enough code base, it's going to start acting really weird.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I was saying, it's all about you and your growth. Because the more
Right.
you know, you see what I'm saying? Like it just gets you ahead. And I'm finding out, like, look at where I started prompting to where I am now. And what was the big difference? Like, it's not the tools. Like, it's not the tools that changed. They allow me to do more, but it was me.
Yeah, it's like going back to
Stayed
basics.
updating my own mental software, you know. So, I mean, it's going to be a while before this stuff just totally takes over and everything. And then still, it's going to come down to the people who can use it, who know
Well,
how to
right.
use
That's why I think that like prompt engineering is probably more valuable than building automation systems or whatever, because it's like even if you know one person can say like the prompting becomes easier, in order to learn prompt engineering, you have to learn the reasoning and logic. And it's like, even if the prompt engineering as a skill goes away eventually, the kind of meta skill of reasoning and logic that you had to learn in order to get good at that is still going to be valuable no
right.
matter
I
where
don't believe prompt
the tools
engineering
are.
gonna leave it. It's gonna be a long time before it does. That's why I see those videos on YouTube, the clickbait. Prompt engineering is dead. I'm like, well, you're not a prompt engineer because if you knew what it was, you wouldn't be saying that. Like, it comes down to better input, better output. However you want to say it. So whatever results you're getting are nowhere near the results you could be getting if you knew prompt engineering at a high level. To me,
In
it is the
in
most important thing out of all of this stuff is knowing how to prompt. Like,
Yeah, and like better input, better output. That's a very
yeah, I mean that's it.
there's a lot to unpack there. It's like a lot of people will say that without understanding like how high quality the input could get.
Right. They're looking at it and going, "Oh my God!" Like I have a friend of mine. He owns a business, so he jumps in the chat GPT, and me and him were together having coffee one morning. Both of us have our laptops, and he goes, "Oh man, look at this! Look at what I got!" And I go, "Let me see that." And I was like, "What's your prompt?" And he goes, "Oh, here." And I go, "Okay." And I'm over there like 5 minutes. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm doing what you did, but I'm going to show you what prompt engineering does." And I go, boop. And I turn the laptop around. He goes, "What? What? Man, can I have that?" It's just like, it totally just blew his out of water. He's like, "I didn't even know you could get answers like this." And I'm like, "That's what I'm saying." And I'm going, the people who prompt at levels like this out of the 100%, it's probably like 2%. It's really small. You think it's a lot, but it's not. It's like
Yeah,
you
it's
got all the engineers and all the people who are doing all the, it's still in like 2% of the population that really utilize this at this level.
I doubt it's that much.
Yeah,
I
it's
think like
probably not
even it's probably 0.2, but like
much.
even with the community and with the YouTube channel, I've been just having lots of conversations with people, and it's like everyone I talk to, like there's very few people that are like really understanding this on a deep level.
Right.
And it's like they might know what RAG is or what prompt engineering is, but the actual like either you get the people that are super technical on the developer side, but the reasoning or like there's so many like kind of like tertiary skills, and you have
Hmm.
some people that are like really good in one of those skills, but like I think the reasoning component to it is probably the most difficult to master.
Right. Like even setting up RAG, like I've really went out there and studied it and did my own in Pinecone, and I threw a bunch of data in it. Like I looked at the settings, I studied what people were doing, what the changes were, and messed around with it myself. And I got one that like I got books and books and books in there, like tons of information. and it's literally tuned to what I want it to do, and it is spot on, like spot on. It isn't missing. It isn't, so I'm having a good experience with RAG where some people are not having them. And so I'm like, maybe it's in your setup, maybe it's in your blocks. How do you have this thing running? Because I believe like a lot of this stuff is you can optimize it to run beautifully if you know what you're doing, and to know what you're doing, it just takes experience. So go around there, mess it up, play around with it until you find out like, oh, wow, this is it. This is perfect for my setup. So, man, there's just so much in this, even for the principles, what I was talking about, like even going back to um what I was showing like in this, like just the principles, having an understanding of this, you know, um, is like a big deal, and this is, like I say, this is just like module one. And then literally off that book, I can build even more. I can say, hey, kick out module two, and it's going to have a bunch. And then you can go off on those individual sections and learn even more. So it's like, the rabbit hole is there. How much of this you really want to learn, is going to be that. And then knowing that, okay, that's that book, then you can do it for this book. And then you can do it for this book. You know what I'm saying? Like you just constantly get better. You can pull out machine learning and do it for that. But I promise you, understanding this at a high level is going to help you in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Before I get to my question, I mean, everything in here has been very insightful and very helpful. I'm a beginner to prompt engineering, and I was trying to build a voice agent, and I heard you talking about you've built a voice agent before, and I built out a script, but I'm not too. I built out a prompt script, but I'm not too confident about it. So I just wanted you to share some of your strategies to building voice agents.
Voice agents, it kind of depends on, let's say, what all it's doing. Is it making tool calls, where like during the conversation you're gonna SMS message them information, or is it in the call? Is it gonna set up an appointment? So it's kind of based on what you want it to do. I do know one of the best tools that just came out. I built one myself, but for public tools that
Yeah,
came out, have you heard of Boppy?
yeah, I've heard about Vapi, Synflow.
Okay, so here's a new one in Boppy that you'll probably like. Well, if you sign into Boppy
Yeah,
right now in the back end, they have something new. What's new is AI helps you build scripts. Build prompts for your AI agent. So you
yeah,
just tell it what you want it to do, and it does it for you.
okay,
So now what you can do is start giving it different scenarios and looking at what it kicks out to like
gotcha.
start, figuring out what you could do for that. Like going, oh, okay. Because I got prompts that are like crazy for like I got prompts like this for voice agents, so it's like hundreds of
Wow,
lines of stuff like this. So wait for a question, ask if you want to do this. So it just depends on what you're trying to do with it, and then I'll build something like that out, and then after that I'll go in and I have this one, Vox Slim, which will then cut that prompt down. So essentially it's like just way less of the size.
Yeah.
Because with voice AI, you want to make sure that you have low latency.
Yeah.
So the smaller your prompt, but the more succinct it is, the better. So I like build something out huge and then cut it down and then start doing some testing. That's when you definitely got to do some testing on is for voice prompts is
Yeah.
that. And then another tool that I use to help is this right here for voice AI agents.
Yeah.
So Voicera, you can like have your agent set up and you can then go in, set parameters, and it does all the testing for you. It like makes calls, gets reactions, does everything on auto for you. So it cuts your time down from like 16 hours to like 2.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So this is one like it does the testing for you. So that's one you want to take a look at.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
So we're about at 2 hours now, so just want to kind of formally wrap up here. Happy to stay on a little bit longer for questions and other things, but just wanted to kind of like formally close the container here.
Yep.
I mean, we could go on this all day, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm leaving this feeling really excited. I just like sometimes I'll just get in ruts, and I think just like coming back to basics, the mindset to first principles is really important, and just being like, yeah, just the desire and hunger to learn and to level up these skills. Like you're talking about character development, something I've been thinking about a lot these days in terms of like, you know, that feels to me like more fundamental than almost anything else. Like, do I have integrity? What skills am I trying to, build within myself? And I think just like the hunger and desire to level up and to learn those is like probably the most important thing above all else, because everything comes down the line from that, right? If I have the hunger to level up my reasoning capacities, my logic, my fundamental skill sets, it doesn't matter if I don't know how to do it. Like the how will reveal itself after
Right.
the desire is there for long enough and you take action.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I appreciate about you. Is I feel like you have that hunger and that drive, and you're just diving in, and you're just getting your hands dirty and going through that character development,
Oh yeah, man.
journey. And
It's fun, man. It's
it's
like
not like
it's addictive.
I think that's
But
the way to go about it.
yeah, the best way to learn is immersion. Like you have to immerse yourself into what you're doing. And doing that, it's just, man, I watch so many tutorials, so many videos. Like, man, I'm like Neo sitting in that chair, man. I'm just like plugging stuff in the back of my head, going, I know that now. Next, it just keep on doing it and doing it. But that's what you have to do, man. It's like it's really good if you have a passion for this, you know. It's not like work. It's just like learning and being better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's where I see a lot of people slacking, and that's something I've been thinking about is like, what is my why? Like why am I actually doing this? And if I forget that, the motivation just goes down the drain almost immediately. And so like, just I see a lot of people like wanting to get to 10K a month or whatever the metric is, and like if that's the goal, like good luck with the motivation. But if the goal,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but if
And
the
I
goal
kind of
is
been
like,
paying attention to people like you that are like I just been in a lab so much that I'm like, okay, I need to start giving this stuff away, and talking more about it and helping more people. So, I got my YouTube channel. I hadn't started it yet, but I got like 100 and something people already signed up on it. So I'm like, all right, I need to start kicking out videos, helping people out, showing them things. And because that's the fun. It's like, you could do this yourself, but helping others achieve their dreams too, that's like, man, that feels good.
Yeah.
When
It's kind of,
say you helped me on this, I appreciate it. You're like, yeah, another person did it. So yeah, that's
that's
how.
that's what I've been centering around, or I like started to lose motivation and energy, and I was like putting out daily videos for a while, and so I kind of had to like self-reflect the last like couple weeks. And that's kind of like what I landed on is, it's a crazy transition that we're going through, that we will be going through, and just like helping people navigate it, understand it, figure out what to do, helping people. Kind of like my biggest thing is it's really easy to feel sort of like apathetic and lethargic, or just like, oh, it's too overwhelming, I'm just going to do nothing. And kind of
Mhm.
like my big mission that I'm centering around is like helping people maintain their agency and their sense of empowerment and their sense of like optimism, and being like, yeah, like even if AI takes the jobs, I'm still leveling up things that are important and I still have meaning. And it's like I feel like it's gonna it's very easy to fall into kind of like nihilism and despair really easily when you think like, oh, AI is gonna take all of our jobs. And I'm like, there's ways to relate to this that don't lead to that, and that's kind of what I'm centering my work around now.
Yeah, it's like you're going to think, so you might as well think positive. And so thinking AI is going to take my job, why don't you think, whoa, AI can make me better at doing my job? Like, how do I learn it? What can I get from it to be even better so that when I talk to my company, it's like, hey, have you guys started doing this? Have you thought of doing this? No. Well, can I lead that agenda? It's like start thinking instead of the doom and gloom, start thinking about how this can be better and how you can be better from it and how to improve. Looking at this program on CNBC, they were already talking about how even though they did a lot of tech layoffs, like, man, thousands and thousands of tech layoffs. It wasn't for the new stuff, it was for the old stuff. Like they were laying people off because companies had gone crazy in hiring when COVID hit. And it's like, so now everything is kind of regulating back down to where it was. And so they're getting rid of all these people. But the one thing they don't have is people that know AI. Like they had CEO after CEO after HR representative, all these people on, and they were interviewing them. And they were going, yeah, we have so many AI jobs that we could fill, but we don't have the expertise to fill them. That is an indicator that should let you know something. Like these are the people who own the companies and operate the companies telling you, yeah, people are saying that they know generative AI, then we get them in for the interview and find out they don't. Like they've done some things in GPT, and they're saying that's generative AI, and um, that's not the case. It's like they don't know it, and so they got
Exactly. And it's like,
jobs that they cannot fill them. Like they sat up there and
right.
they were expressing like we have all these jobs, we can't fill them. The people don't have the expertise. We have more jobs than people qualified.
And it's like the jobs are being taken, but new ones are being created as well. And one of the ones I've had my eye on is a bunch of people talking about this chief AI officer.
Mhm.
So it's like this. It's basically you're strategizing about how a company can implement AI. And I fundamentally think that like that's what I'm going after, is like I'm gonna build this business. But if I were to work for someone else, I would go after that role of like, I do strategy for you about the implementation, and maybe you go and hire some some
what you
no
should
code
do.
people or whatever to build it out. But I'm actually the strategy guy, the fundamental at the, top of the chain.
Contract yourself to do it.
Oh,
Contract
fractional
yourself
CAO.
to be a CAIO because I'm already doing that for 2 other companies.
Wow, that's a cool idea.
So I am the chief AI officer for 2 other companies.
That's absolutely sick.
So it's like, even though I have my own, I'm still the CAIO of 2 other ones.
Yeah. I'm putting
And
that in
so
my
you
LinkedIn bio
contract
right now.
yourself out to do it so you're not pigeonholed in, but you
Yeah.
can still do the same thing for those companies.
Yeah. That's genius.
That's what it's about.
Fractional CAIO. We just
Yeah.
That's a
that's where
cool
it's at.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, in order to do that, like if you guys want to hit the next level, it's really learning business, how to talk to business owners, how to talk to C-suite individuals, understanding their language, which is the language of ROI,
Mm-hmm.
understanding business systems. So I went deep into business process management, business process analysis, and then using AI to bring that into today's world, because BPM, the concept is old, but it's very sound. So you update it with AI, bring it into now. And that's how I started doing it. Like, I started giving people strategies, and it was like, hey, can we bring you on for this? And so started doing it. And it's not only being inside of the softwares and the thinking and all that, but it's understanding business, which is the big thing, because you find a lot of people jump in this going, I want to, have an AI automation company. And how are you going to do that if you don't know business? They think just because you have some automations that now you can just go to companies and it's going to be this way, but you got to know how to talk to them. And then in a lot of ways, it's like, well, how are you going to make the pro module of it? And people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, okay, you have an N8N solution, but now how are you going to get paid on that monthly? And how are you going to implement that for the company? Do you have a dashboard? What kind of reporting are you doing? Are you actually looking at your data? What can be upgraded? What can be changed? Is there a better way to do it? Looking at their end result, what else can you put in place to help implement better change? It's business. So it's not just the automation, becoming real good at that automation. There's much more to it than that. So the more you, going back to what I said earlier, the more you're making yourself better and understanding business, then the better you can do at it. So
It's
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. It's been quite the slap in the face for me to like try to go out and sell these things and to be like, oh shit, my ability to understand business and to sell stuff is the bottleneck and nothing else.
yeah.
Because it's not an easy skill to learn. Like you can get a baseline set of that skill, but to like get really good at business strategy and at speaking with people
Mhm.
that are founders of companies that are successful, like it's not easy, but it's
Right.
possible. It's possible to learn though. It's a very learnable skill.
Yeah. Yeah. It helps that I come from a business background and entrepreneur background and have my own company. And had it before. It's like you go through all these things so you understand it more. And so that's why it's like I kind of look at it as my at core skill in all this is going to be the prompt engineering. But then outside of that, I'm going to know how to do things, but I'm not going to be so enthralled in it that, I'm getting in there and can't see out here. So It's like, I'm going to do these things to a certain layer and to a certain level. And then what I keep concentrating on is the business strategies, where the market is going, how to implement infrastructures in the businesses. How are they changing based on where the software is going now, the capabilities of the large language models? What are we doing different these days? What has been successful in looking at it, of how I'm working with it with clients? And then even being a part of this new enterprise I told you about earlier that I got brought on to do, that's going to be huge, because now it's even going to be at a higher level. And it's like the culmination of all these things together is just beefing up my experience. And it just shows so much that, this is one of the biggest things that people are missing when it comes to doing all this, is that business side of it. I was teaching it at one moment for one group, and they were saying it kept getting voted the best class. And I'm like, I don't think it's me. I think it's the fact that that's the part that's missing. Everyone is teaching how to do the automations. Everyone. But the business side of it, high ticket closing, like people are like, what is high ticket closing? It's like understanding, knowing the psychology of the person, the energy you're feeling, how to maneuver the conversation, even more importantly, the mindsets behind it. Like, people can feel that. They know when they're being sold. It's not about selling. So I told people the main concept I use is education. Like, I am educating you on the subject. I'm giving you information about it. Whether you choose to use it or not for your company is totally dependent on you. I'm not forcing my way into it. This is your project overall. So I'm going to educate you on it as much as I can, and then you make the decision whether you want to go forward with us or not. If we do, great. If we don't, great. What I did is I put good energy out into the universe because I helped you. And so from that, something else will come. It's up to you to decide what type of investment you want to put into your own company. Where do you want to see it go? Are you going to continuously do the same things over and over and expect different results, which we all know is the definition of insanity? Or are you going to take risks? Are you going to push the boundaries? Those are the people that get rewarded. So within all that, you have your dynamics of the work that you're going to do for the company. Are you, is this going to be a joint venture? How are these things going to go? It's all dependent upon that. And so I don't pressure people or anything like that. I'm like, hey, the choice is yours. I'm just telling you what's going to improve it. And
So do you teach classes on that now?
I did. I thought about, that's one of the things that I would start teaching on my YouTube channel. I even thought about doing a school community on it, but it kind of depends on, being the CAIO and then being the CEO of my own and then doing it. But I did look at it this way. These are things, principle wise, I can just speak openly and candidly about. I don't have to be a perfectionist when it comes to this, which has kind of slowed me down, because I'm thinking, oh, if I cut a video, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to have this like this, I got to have, when in fact, I can just have a video like we're doing now and just be conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I will say this is a huge pain point, and I'm one of those people. I could do all these things, but I won't do it until I know the business side of it and comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I need you, sir.
Yeah,
We need us.
I've had friends that go, just get on there and talk. Just talk. And I'm like, okay. So yeah.
Maybe maybe we can do a business strategy call in the community.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, it is the big thing. Like it really is. Because like you have all these skills that you develop, but if you don't understand business, like you can know how to do automations all day long, but can you analyze the business? I'm not talking about the processes for the automation. I'm speaking of the business in its entirety. Like that's going to affect the automations. Do you know when it should be autonomous, when it should be augmented, when it should be automation? Do you know where the human in the loop is supposed to be, if it's supposed to be there? Do you know how many systems to put together to do a certain task? Does that task need to be automated at all? Should there be a company shift in how that's done? Should that process even be in the company anymore? Like you can start asking all of these questions, and it's not just about the automation. It's really looking at the company itself, the founders, the people who run it, the personnel they currently have, where they're trying to go, what they have in place. It's so many things. And then from there, determining how this operation needs to move forward. So that isn't covered in N8N. You know what I mean? It's that's just a small piece of it. That's why I look at it as, hyper automation, because it's made up of all those things. It's made up of the business process. It's made up of, people are saying, okay, automation and, AI automation, but then you have RPA, robotic process automation. So it's like all these different pieces of it pulled together, but it's under that umbrella of business. And so if you know something really, really well, like N8N, okay, that puts you in this area here, but there's still all of this up here. So you need to broaden your skills, your skill set, and learn how to do all those different things to kind of open you up. Because even if you know a skill like N8N and you're incredibly good at it, opening a business and running it, that's a different animal. Totally different animal. Because there's so much to consider. The delivery of these products, how are you going to do that? Are you going to create N8N local on their machine? Or are you going to put it in the cloud? Okay, if so, what's the delivery mechanism? There's so many nuances and things to think about when it comes to all of this. So yeah, we can definitely do that.
Let's make it
If
happen.
you do it, can you make it around this time of the day? Because I'm a bus driver and normally I'm just having to call off today. So I'm glad I was able to join in.
Oh, this is cool.
Yep.
Yeah, Ethan just told me me and him were talking. He was like, "Hey, man, we need to have a call." So that's what we did. But the cool thing is, if you would have missed it, it's going to be recorded anyway. So
True.
Yeah, Brian. Is it Brian or Brian?
Breon.
Brian. Yeah, I'll put this up on YouTube and I can tag you in it, send some people your way.
And I'll give you
and
my
then,
YouTube channel to put on there so people will know what it is. So yeah, I think I'm gonna get that started next week. Go ahead.
yeah,
and
so maybe a few weeks or a month from now we can do the business strategy one at around a similar time here.
I think a lot of people would enjoy that one.
I would.
Yeah, and just general mindset strategies, frameworks, and first principles, and that sort of thing. I think that's one of the most. I personally want to level up those skills and kind of focus on that over the technical side of things. So yeah, I would be personally interested in deep diving.
Yep, cool. All right, man.
Awesome.
I gotta jump and do some client work. And
Same here.
well, actually issue some client work to my devs. And gotta go from there. So but it's been
Awesome.
great, man. I appreciate you having me
Yeah.
on.
Thanks for sharing your expertise, and thanks for everyone that joins today. Yeah, looking forward to the next one.
All right, man.
Yeah, thank you.
See you guys later.
Catch you guys later.
Bye.